Hello and welcome to another episode of A Camera You May Have Never Heard of. Hello again, how you doing? How you been? It's good to see you. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Sorry for the delay in videos. I've been kind of putting this one on the back burner because, to be 100% honest, I wasn't really excited to shoot with this camera. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to, and so I kind of put it on the back burner. I was like, you know what, I'll get to it when I get to it. Not only that, I've actually been working on a couple other things. I've actually been building a dark room at the moment, so I'm hoping to make a video on that in the near future, and so keep an eye out for that. But the camera that we're talking about today, I found at a garage sale with my wife about 8 months ago. And again, it's not a camera that I usually use, and so I wasn't super excited about it. But that camera that we're talking about today is the Nikon Lite Zoom 130 ED. Now, that might be a mouthful to say, but this camera is very small and compact. It is actually one of the last compact cameras that Nikon ever released that uses 35mm before the digital takeover. So, kind of neat. It's the youngest Nikon film camera that I own, if you will. But this camera is very surprising in my opinion. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I love this camera and how well the experience was. So let's talk about some of the key features of this camera while we look at some lovely B-roll footage. And yeah, let's just get into it. As I was saying, the Nikon Lite Zoom 130 ED was released in 2002 and it is one of the last 35mm compact cameras that Nikon ever released. I couldn't find the original price online, but nowadays you can find them for anywhere from $80 to $100. Now, if you're lucky like me, you might find this at a garage sale for $5. Yes, I found this for $5 and it did include the original box, so I'm more than happy to have this as part of my collection. This camera boasts a 38 to 130mm lens, so you got quite a broad range of focal length there. Sadly, it lacks in the aperture department. It only has an aperture of 5.3 to 10.5, so I do recommend using a higher ISO film with this, and we will see a little bit of that later on. It does include some nice features though. So on the top of the camera, we will see that there's a button for red eye reduction as well as a self timer. And on the back of the camera, you will see this little flippy switch that is for a panoramic mode. All it really does is it drops down a bar on the top and bottom of your frame as well as in your viewfinder to give you a little bit of a different compositional option, which we'll see a little bit of that later on as well once we go into the photo review section. But it is really fun, it's really nifty, and it's just kind of a cool feature. Now, a lot of compact cameras do have this feature, so this is not exclusive to this Nikon, but it is fun to have. This viewfinder is tiny, but it is a very mighty viewfinder. It is clear, it is sharp, it zooms in when you zoom in, it zooms out when you zoom out, and even when you go into the panoramic mode, like I said, it drops down a bar on the top and bottom so that you can see what your frame is going to look like. Now, with all of that being said, like I said before, I wasn't really excited to use this camera. Not for any other reason besides I typically like having kind of a big, bulky camera in my hands. I'm not used to having a really small, compact camera like this on me, typically because I'll forget that I have it on me and I won't use it. So I wanted to use it for when I was traveling this year. I'm doing a lot of traveling this summer. I still have some traveling to do ahead of me, but my first trip was out to the mountains of California with a couple buddies of mine, and I was like, you know what, this is going to be the perfect camera to bring on hikes and just walking through town of Idlewild, if you've ever been to Idlewild, one of my favorite little towns out in California. But anyways, and I actually had two cameras with me, a camera that we'll be doing a review on later on, and this camera here. And this one quickly became my go-to. It's so simple to use. The other one is a fully manual camera, so obviously this one's going to be a little bit simpler to use. But that's enough of me talking and rambling on. I'm just filling for time here now. Sorry. But anyways, let's go ahead. I've already shot the photos, so we're going to go ahead and head over to the review station. And we're going to talk about the experience of actually shooting with the Nikon Lite Zoom 130 ED. So bear with me, and we're going to take a look at some of the photos that we got. Alright, I've moved a whopping 30 feet from where I was previously. We're ready to talk about the experience of shooting with the Nikon Lite Touch. Now, as I mentioned before, this isn't really my typical camera that I use for daily. I like heavier cameras. I like cameras that I have more options and settings with. I like having a light meter in my camera, and if I don't, I like to meter my photos. I'm not typically used to shooting with a compact point and shoot. With that being said, I love this camera. This camera is definitely going to become kind of my daily. I kind of keep it in my shoulder bag every day now, just because if I ever want to just take a quick photo, it's there and it takes up little to no space. If you're traveling and you just want to bring a backpack and a couple rolls of film and a camera with you, this is the camera to do it with, or a compact point and shoot like this, because it takes up so little space. It's got its own built-in lens protector practically. Granted, it does get scratched. Just keep that in mind. If you look at some of the B-roll, I'll show a clip here. There are scratches on the top of my camera. That is not from when I bought it. That was not there when I bought it. I did that when I put my keys in my shoulder bag with it. So if you want to keep it nice and clean and looking perfect, keep it in its own separate pouch in your backpack. But I digress. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about, or at least let's take a look at some of the photos that I took. You'll also see some B-roll of my trip. There's also going to be some photos thrown in from before my trip. There's actually a couple from last winter when I first bought the camera, and then I let the camera sit on the shelf and I didn't shoot with it for a while. So let's take a look at some of those photos. Let's stop looking at my ugly mug, and I'll talk to you after we see those photos. So now that we've seen some of the images, I want to talk about some of the things that I mentioned earlier about the ISO of the film that you're using. I don't suggest shooting with ISO 100, and there's a main reason for that is that this camera has the widest aperture of 5.6. That's not very wide. It's not letting a whole lot of light in. So I'm going to compare two images here. This image was at the top of a summit that we hiked to up in Idlewild. Clear skies, sunny day, properly exposed. Maybe a little bit overexposed, but it is what it is. But it's a nice, clear image. Now, on my left here is an image of my employee Jake when we were out at a company outing out at the lake. And you can see that it's grainy, it's a little bit underexposed, to say the least. It's not a very sharp, clear looking image. This was just on a slightly overcast day. It was sunny out, as you can tell by the shadows. You can see that the sun is just off to his left shoulder there. But because of that overcast, it was still too shaded out for the lower ISO in this camera. So shoot at 400 ISO, shoot at 800 ISO. It's gonna give you better results in the end of it. Another example that I want to show is one of my buddy Guillermo at the Airbnb that we were staying at. Shout out to Guillermo. This one right here. This was in the Airbnb. So you see that window to his right there. It was maybe 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so plenty of sunlight coming in. And not only that, behind me were two glass sliding doors that also had sunlight coming in. The camera still needed to use the pop-up flash, and that's why you kind of have that hot spot in the middle. You can even see a little bit of reflection on his glasses there. It's still underexposed. Granted, it's a nice clear image. It's underexposed, but I still like the image. But if you're going to be taking photos inside, then you definitely need to be shooting at a higher ISO with this. The flash is not that powerful. Be close to your subjects, shoot wide, have a higher ISO. You're going to get better images out of it. That's really the only warning that I heed with this camera. Now, let's go ahead. Let's wrap this up. You've heard me talking enough about this camera. If you're looking for a compact point and shoot that is not too expensive, but it's also a little bit higher quality, I highly suggest this camera. Now, $100, I can't really gauge if that's a good value for this, because again, I don't shoot with compact point and shoots a whole lot, but I'm looking to change that. I'm looking to get 2 more compact point and shoots from other brands and other price ranges that we can put head to head. So I'm looking at possibly getting an Olympus point and shoot, because those are really popular. They cost a little bit more, and I've heard great things about them. But I'm also a big Minolta fan, if I've never mentioned that before. And a Minolta has a lot of pretty nice compact point and shoots that are really affordable. I'm talking $20, $30, $40 for a wider aperture compact point and shoot. So keep an eye out for that video in the future. That's definitely something that I'm looking to do. Not only that, like I mentioned before, I am working on a dark room right now in my studio. I'll show a little clip of that right here. It's not much, it's not a huge space, but it's my space, it's my dark room. And so I'm really excited to share that with you guys. I'm really excited to show that in the future as well, once it's kind of put all together. I've got enlargers, I've got safe lights, I've got developing trays, I've got developing tanks. I just need to get everything put together properly, and I'm gonna start doing my own enlargement. So I'm really excited to see that come to fruition, and I'm excited to share that with you guys. So with all that being said, I appreciate you guys watching. I tried putting a little bit more effort into the lighting and the audio of this video, so hopefully it'll just continue to go up from here as far as the quality of the content. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, or even suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing from you guys. I got a lot of comments, or a good handful of comments on my first videos from people that were not subscribed before. So it's really exciting to see new people interacting with my content. So please, I love seeing your comments. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of A Camera You May Have Never Heard Of.